Hello, trade professionals. Welcome to another episode of the Simply Trade News Roundup. And today is a lucky day for you because we are in the virtual studio with three of us again. Woo! So it's Lalo. Hi, Lalo. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Great. I'm doing great. It's a Friday for us. We're recording on a Friday. You will hear this on a Monday or whenever you hear this episode. But going back to my point before, and we have Andy in the studio, which he has not been in the studio for 2 weeks because he has been moving, and you know how moving goes. If you ever have moved in your life, I mean, it's stressful. But hi, welcome back, Andy. Tell us about your new start at your new job. We need to know.
Yeah, well, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, whenever you're listening, obviously. And yeah, I am really glad to be back. It has been fantastic. I have a new position that I've started. And so I literally have moved from the Memphis area to Searcy, Arkansas, which is about a 45-minute drive north of Little Rock. It's in central Arkansas. Beautiful town here. It's got a population just under 24,000. And I am the city's finance director, and I have started on the 26th of August. So in addition to moving, I've actually also started, and I have been in back-to-back meetings. I've had the privilege of going to and meet with all the different department heads and all that with the mayor, and he's taken me around town, and I've seen a lot of different things. I've met the city council. I've met a lot of great people, and I got to tell you, I'm so humbled. This is a great job so far. It's a great community. They've welcomed me. I'll tell you something funny. The first day, or of course, I went through the interview process. This wound up taking like several weeks and all of that. So with that, I wore the suit and tie at the interview, but I had done some research ahead of time. So I'm going over with my blue jeans and my boots and hat and all that. And then and after I got the job, I also was asked to come over beforehand and attend a couple of city council meetings. So they introduced me there. Well, I'm walking in with my, cowboy hat and boots and all. And so the first day officially I start August 26th. So I come in and they have my office already set up. I'm telling you, they spoiled me rotten even before I get in there. Fantastic welcome. Everybody seems to be very excited about me being there. First thing Monday morning, I come in, put some of my stuff down in the office, took off my hat, put it on part of my credenza and all that. Get a cup of coffee, and I'm walking around saying good morning to a few folks there in City Hall. So I saw the mayor, saw city treasurer, saw all kinds of different folks. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to fill out paperwork. So I'm waiting on the HR manager and whatnot. And as I'm walking around, I'm looking and all of a sudden I just realized I'm in the lobby here of City Hall, and our offices are just off the lobby area there. And I'm literally by myself, and there's nobody around, nobody in the hallways, nobody in their offices. And I'm like, well, maybe there's some meeting I don't know of in some conference room or whatever. So I'm looking at the pictures on the wall. I'm just waiting for somebody to come give me some paperwork. And all of a sudden, here comes everybody out of an office, and they come in and they come into the lobby area, and every one of them have a different colored bandana on, and the women had created these little pendants that have a little black cowboy hat on them. And it had, it's nothing big, but I mean, it was extremely humbling and funny. They were laughing. I was laughing. And they said, oh yeah, we got to take pictures and stuff like that. So actually the mayor said, well, wait a minute. We can't take a picture. You got to get your cowboy hat on. And he runs to my office, gets my cowboy hat, and brings it back out. And so I'm like, so I will, I'll need to send y'all a picture you can put on the website or something so you can see my first day and all that. So it was really great. It was humbling. So
wow.
It's been
that
fantastic.
sounds fun. Yeah, that's a good, have a little bit of fun in the workplace always helps to make the stressful work a little bit more fun. I don't know. Yeah.
Well,
Love
we had also later in the day, or later in the week, we also had kind of like a group lunch, I guess, whatever. And that's normally when they do like, recognize somebody in the month for the birthdays and stuff like that. It's like, okay, fine. So we're all in there. Well, then I had people ask me about the podcast.
Oh.
And so I started talking about it, and they kept asking me questions. I kept talking about it. And Annik, I'm going to say, I will tell you this, Annik. Lalo and I get the opportunity to go out and we'll do public appearances and stuff like that, but we brag on you constantly. You've got a fan base.
Nice.
I got to tell you, it's really nice, but we brag on you. And I said, obviously Annik and I don't necessarily see things the same way, but that's what makes it a lot of fun in the discussion. So.
Yeah, I know. I was actually wondering if they heard you on the podcast or if they listened to it. But I mean, some people who are not necessarily in trade directly might not listen to it. Though I do have to say that we are kind of fun. And if you really want to know what's going on in the world in the trade sector, that could also affect you, this is a great place to start, especially with us. We have Lalo, Andy, Annik. That's me. And so
and Renee at times and different ones. It's like, that's great.
So we're glad you're listening. I just said,
folks at Searcy, Arkansas and Central Arkansas, please, if you're listening to us, please make comment and do something so we can see and recognize you as well. But I think there's going to be maybe a slight uptick, I hope, in listenership from this area. But it has been fantastic. So.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. And I'm welcome, you guys, whoever is new to listening. Glad you're here. And again, we're going to go straight into the articles that we're talking on today. So if you have never listened, we go through 3 articles that I pick or, Lalo or Andy pick and kind of talk on them. I mean, we're not necessarily giving you advice on it. We're just kind of seeing like where this takes the trade industry and what to kind of look out for. And then in our other podcast, we'll get a deeper take on some of these issues, which is really nice. So go check those out. But we have some very interesting things that we're going to talk about today. So the first one, I think that's actually like the biggest one I would say is, or maybe it's the second. I don't know. I can't decide. Okay, let's go into it. Sorry, I'm talking too much. The U.S. Transportation Security Administration, TSA, we all know, getting our baggage and stuff as we go to our gate, we have to go through TSA. Anyways, they have introduced emergency amendments to U.S. customs regulations for air freight security. So foreign airlines are required to submit additional details of shippers and
consignees.
Thank you. Consignees.
Yeah.
Wow. I was looking at the word and I'm like, I'm going to mess this up. Okay. Consignees. Wow. Where am I?
I got your back.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Consignee. Well, and I have lost my spot. Are you serious? Okay. Shippers and consignees to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency. So, Korean Airlines temporarily halts cargo, which this is what it said in the article. So, Korean Airlines temporarily halts cargo sales from specific regions in response to the new security regulations, which, I mean, I kind of want to get into this. Can you guys kind of describe what's happening here and how this will affect us moving future-wise?
Lalo, I don't know if you want to jump in there. I mean, this is something I'm very familiar with.
I have an afterthought comment about it. You can go ahead and start, and then I'll conclude it and wrap it up.
I would just like to clear up the little because it seems to be confusion and uncertainty among airlines, and I just want to clear that up and see, and there's confusion with me too. So go ahead and take it.
Well, all right. So here's what the deal is that basically TSA, the Transportation Safety Administration, has basically rolled out and required cargo flights to adhere to what's called ACAS. ACAS is the Air Cargo Advanced Screening System. And it was implemented in 2018. So let's go back just a little bit. If y'all remember, there was a couple of shipments that were made by some terrorists, and they were one package was put on a FedEx flight, another one was on UPS. They were so it was on the express side of things, and they were described as printers, like a Hewlett Packard printer or a Canon printer, whatever it was. It was a computer printer. And then there's some other computer parts and whatnot. And in those boxes were packaged up with explosives. Well, at that time, the way we would do things is we would get our manifest information created. The plane could launch, take off, depart, and we had so much time where we would then finalize the manifest. Here's the flight. Here's everything on it and whatever. Then we would transmit that to customs before, at least it had to be at least 2 hours or more before flight arrival. In certain cases, if it was a shorter flight, there was certain privilege or requirements there. But regardless, about 2 hours before flight arrival, and customs then would peruse that electronically. The problem is that we would lose, and customs would lose, hours in a long flight of being able to review that. So, and with that, these planes got grounded real quick before they took off. And those packages were discovered, and so there was tip-offs and things and whatever. And long story short, nothing was blown up or whatever, but we developed, I was actually part of that group along with several others, at FedEx and UPS, DHL and all. And we developed with customs what's called the ACAS system. So it basically is providing, air bill information, bill of lading, if you will. And in the air industry, you call it an air bill. It's shipper and consignee. Consignee would be like your ship to party, your just basic description. So basically, bill of lading information is the manifest information. And we would provide that so much earlier. And here's where the key is, the difference. Beforehand, we would say, okay, flight 1, 2, 3, and here's all the electronic manifest. So here's everything on that flight. Whereas now, we would transmit to customs saying, look, we don't know exactly which flight it is. We may have 2, 3 aircraft coming out of the same location. But that still doesn't, they're wanting to see who's the shipper, who's the consignee, and run it through their targeting system and things of that nature. So we were able to then transmit at the air bill level information, and then we would confirm it later with, okay, all of these air bills are on this flight and all of these air bills are on flight 2 or whatever. So what it enabled customs to do is receive manifest information at the air bill level, shipment level, anywhere from 6, 8, even as much as 12 hours earlier than what they did before. What does that empower them to do? It empowers them to run through targeting. You don't have to have so much staffing to run through all of that in a short window. The window opened up. And if they made a selection or they had an issue with something, they electronically then could, flag that shipment. It would go back to the carrier and say, you need to look at this or look at something or whatever the case may be. But the point being is that information would come so much earlier. So the express industry has been doing this since 2018. Well, that's a good long time, isn't it? We're over 6 years into that program. It has been highly, highly successful, much more productive for customs, for the government, for everybody all involved. Now, that was in the express industry. Now you have the air cargo, and they have been dragging their feet for a long time. It's like, you know what? It's time to pony up here. And what's happened is they have been providing information. in a consolidation or something, I've got, positions 1, 2, and 3 that are consolidated and whatever. Now they're going to have to get down to the air bill level. And that's some of the freight forwarders working with them and all that, and provide that information earlier. And there's an issue here. So these cargo airlines basically have either not invested in their systems or not taken steps to deal with this. And it sounds like the TSA finally said, we're tired of this. We're requiring it. Boom. There has to be also, if it is an urgent implementation, which I'm kind of surprised that it's coming around as if it's, an emergency type thing. There must be some activities going on that other, CIA or FBI or somebody else may be getting indications that there's some activity to try and cause some problems, all right, in the supply chain. But all right. So for security, that's what this is. This is that basically foreign flight coming from, whether it's a U.S. domestic carrier or a foreign carrier, doesn't matter. They need to supply the air bill information to customs, to the manifest, to the ACAS program. That's all it is.
So this is a good thing, but it might be, is it an additional step for people that, the cargo?
Well, it is.
Well, yeah.
I mean, don't you think, Andy? I mean, it's just something that it is additional, but it's not uncalled for. Let me say that only because look what happens to ocean carriers. They have ISF and they need to report 10+2, also known as 10+2. It's either A, aligning to standards like that, or B, like Andy said, we don't know what we don't know. It could be a security concerns from other agencies that are saying, because this was sudden. I mean, it was sudden and it wasn't. It was being hinted at also, because there's also, and I'm going to cross over, and I don't know if this is going to be a reach or not, but it could cross over into the de minimis requirements that have been we've been listening to and hearing here lately, right? Only because now de minimis is requiring that there's more data reporting, there's more transparency in those supply chains, so that we are aware of what is being imported. So it kind of aligns with that. And I'm only saying that because kind of just foreshadowing, we will have a guest coming on our show in a couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Hoping the schedule aligns and everything. But we have a guest that we had before, and her name is Maureen Corey. So she's coming on our show, and she's going to talk a little bit about what we're talking about here in this story, and specifically de minimis, but more on the broker side. We've been talking a lot about de minimis on like the importer, how it impacts, everyone else as far as consumers. But she's going to be talking more about like how's the broker impacted, how does it affect them, et cetera. So that's going to be really interesting. So it kind of all ties in together. So that was just my thing. And really, I guess it's just everybody's going to have to start adhering to these requirements and sooner or later.
Yeah. And obviously it's for a good cause, right? At the end of the
it's
day.
for security purposes and all.
Yeah.
And there's multiple benefits from it. It's just that the air cargo airlines and going down and further, the freight forwarders and all that are going to have to provide that information up through the process. And it's not as if they're getting caught flat-footed to say, oh no, how are we going to do this? I think the issue here has been that, and I think Lalo really makes a great point. Here's the difference. FedEx, UPS, on the de minimis, their manifesting process, their clearance process is highly, highly automated. Information is flowing throughout the day, it's just transmitting to customs. It's going through the process. They're getting information so much earlier than they're going through. So even these $0 to $800 de minimis shipments, that information is flowing through so that they can deal with something. But then you go and look at the post office. you don't see that. You look at the air cargo side, you don't see that. And here's one of the other things. There are shipments that are following under the de minimis, and they're coming in containers on the air cargo side, and they'll take off these containers, and then the broker will use the type 86 entries and all this other stuff to clear them. And they have not provided that level of detail until, after the fact, or the ocean containers and all that. So it's just a matter of like, you know what, TSA is like, give us the information. And so you've got all that. It's time to do it. It's time to figure it out. 6 years, it's been a highly successful manifest program. And I just will say, I gave kudos both to the TSA and to customs in this, in that it really makes the government in this process much more productive, effective, and in the end, hopefully, it protects us, you and me as citizens on things.
Yeah, that's all. That's probably the overall picture of it. Well, thank you. And you did mention kind of a foreshadowing of the next article that we're going to cover, which we're going into the de minimis. And I think we have talked about that. I'm not sure if they have done this before, but the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, has announced a delay in the automation of the de minimis $800 threshold enforcement within the ACE system, rescheduling the deployment from September 28th, 2024 to January 11, 2025. And basically why they're doing this delay allows for the introduction of a warning flag system to notify filers when shipments may exceed the administrative exemption limit under the 19 USC 1321, just aiming to facilitate a smoother transition and minimize disruption in cargo flow, which I do agree. I mean, that's a good way. I mean, just to give more time to figure things out. But have they done this before?
Sort of.
Right? So do you think this will be like the final time, or what's the deal with this?
No, I'll give you a real quick timeline, and then Andy can comment on like the actual details of it. But the time, and only because that's what I researched. That I was like you, Annik, and I was wondering. I thought we talked about this before, but we didn't. So technically, there's a entry for brokers for de minimis now, not now, but called for ACE. When you're filing the entry, it's called Type 86 entry. So that was implemented. So there was several phases of which this was going to get implemented. And brokers, please don't kill me if I'm getting this wrong, because I mean, I'm not a broker and I could be botching this, but I'm just picking this up from my friends over at NCBFAA, like JD or Kiko and all these guys that talk about this a lot, and so I'm just going with, resources and information that I picked up, that I thought I picked up, but pretty much there was several phases. The first phase was to to mark those entries as Type 86. So basically, when was this Type 86 or this shipment going to reach the U.S.? When were you going to make the entry? So that was a Type 86. That was first phase. The second phase was to enforce the $800 threshold. So that was supposed to be implemented on September 28th, which was in a few weeks from now. That got delayed till January of 11 of 2025. So that's what they're delaying. So they haven't delayed this yet. This is the first time it's delayed, but it's only the second phase that they're delaying. So that first phase of reporting Type 86 entries, in other words, any shipments under the $800 threshold need to be reported, as far as letting customs through ACE know when it's going to arrive. So that's still in force. It's been apparently going smoothly, or I hope nobody kills me on this, but it has been implemented. So anyway, I don't know, Andy, if you have anything else to add to that.
I don't know if there's really that many people that would have ordered in a particular, or receive in a particular day, items over 800, because the average, if you remember, Cindy Allen made a great point. And
I think Lalo mentioned that last time too, actually.
Right.
That
the average is like $63 or something.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Right. So
that's funny that you mentioned that. Yeah.
So it would take quite a few shipments, you know, for that to, but I believe that may be part of it. Whatever the other enhancements are, and maybe, you know what, we probably need to get Vinny or somebody else back on, Vinny Annunziato from the customs, to say, hey, what is the enhancements you're looking for specifically on this? But regardless, you know, it's the first time it's being delayed, and that's not anything new, but it's just going to be the requirement. Just like this ACAS thing we were talking about, well, there's going to be manifest requirements and other modes of transportation. Pardon me, folks. And other modes of transportation that comes in, you're going to have to provide the shipper, the consignee, the basic information to adhere to the laws and regulations. So,
okay, interesting. I mean, I think we kind of did talk on this last time, but Lalo, you made a good point how we differently talked on this, but it little bit sounds the same. But it was just a whole statement that CBP brought up.
Yeah, we probably need to, as Global Training Center, put together a webinar that's more like a 30-minute to 1 hour quick free webinar, and put it all together so that it's not just little chunks here and there. You know what I mean? Just to summarize everything. So I'll again, you know, I'll talk to our buddies over at NCBFAA or you know, a lot of the brokers that we work with.
Now, the last one, well, it is a Friday for us, and you might have a beer in your hand. You might also not. Just kidding. No one has a beer in their hand, guys. And I'm sorry, it's Monday for you if you're listening. So, because we do have, it's funny, guys. I'm going to have to mention this. Our episode drops, and I'm, kid you not, in the first hour, people are listening to it. So thank you for that. We really appreciate it. And, but we would like more feedback. So, I mean, we see you guys listening, but we would like more feedback. So what do you really want to know? You know, what are the articles you really want us to get into or talk on, or or do you like it? You know, something like that. Whatever you have on your heart, let us know. I don't know how I jumped from beer to this, but, this article is about beer. Okay, guys. So Russia is permitting imports of North Korean beer. I'm not sure how good North Korean beer is, you know.
Yeah, says because, German, you know, right?
Yeah, I'm German, and we do have some pretty damn good beer. So there you go. But this is a fun topic. I had to include it. I mean, as a fellow German, I feel like I saw beer and I'm like, yes, immediately we're talking about this. This is, you know, we're going to talk. All right. Well, what's happening? So Russia's decision, is obviously to allow the import of North Korean beer, which also marks a significant shift in trade relations. So the approval comes amidst UN sanctions on North Korea, indicating deepening economic ties between Russia and North Korea. So this move also follows other exchanges, including the export of animals from Russia to North Korea, kind of signaling an expanded cooperation between the two. Not sure what we want to think on that. I mean, I don't know what to say. It doesn't feel right, but it seems like there's two huge powers that are cooperating more. And I think I just want to talk on what does that mean with trade. As for America, yeah, let's get into it. I don't know what there is much to say on that.
Well, I'll say this. It doesn't affect trade with America or around. This circumvents all that. But what it is, you know, remember that Russia is circumventing Western Bank and U.S. sanctions, other sanctions from other Western countries. But they're doing business with, you know, Russia's doing business with North Korea and with Iran, and, you know, China's supporting it and all that. It is reported, even though both North Korea, in this same article, in North Korea and Russia both deny this, but North Korea has been supplying ammunition and ballistic missiles to Russia, who that has been using that in the war with the Ukraine. Now they're using this, importing the beer. All that is to expand the trade between North Korea and Russia, and it's trying to stimulate some economic growth for North Korea. And since the sanctions, obviously the motivation there is Russia is struggling to get. I mean, they like their beer as well. And because of the sanctions, they're not able to get some. So they're looking for other sources. That's all this is. The issue there is, the article makes reference to sanctions within the UN or United Nations. And it's like, you shouldn't be doing business. Like, well, they're doing business together. So what are you going to do about it? So it's one of these things that the UN is like that chihuahua on the front porch. It just yap, 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 yap. And it's like, there's no teeth to it. There's no big deal.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Well, not funny at all, but they're putting all these sanctions and then they're like, all right, well, we're just going to get it elsewhere. Like, we're fine, So that's kind of the just annoying part. Like there's, as to fix the country, they're just looking for other ways to grow, not maybe in the right ways or, anyways, just how we think of Russia, I guess, is, anyways, that's just another topic for another day. You can cut that out. But I do have a fun fact for you all. I needed to, since I was ending with beer, I figured that we'll go into a fun fact of beer. And so do you guys know who has the highest imports of beer?
Who has the highest imports of beer?
Yeah.
US. I would think Canada. I think Canada.
Really? Well, Lalo, you're right. It is the United States.
Oh,
so
wow.
The United States takes the lead as the world's largest import market for beer with an import value of $6.7 billion in 2022. So this was 2 years ago, but well, it does say it. I think it was corrected also by 2024. And second is France, which I'm sure they get their beer from us. So, because we're right next to them, that's an easy import for them. But yeah, that was my fun fact. And the third one is Italy. The fourth one is China. The fifth one is United Kingdom. And the sixth, Netherlands. And the seventh is Germany. What? Okay. And the eighth is Russia. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. So
I read somewhere that I read the most popular somewhere, or I heard that the most popular beer in the world is a Chinese beer. Like, I think it's called Snow or something.
Really?
Well, that makes sense. There's a heck of a lot more Chinese, that can be consuming it than Americans, for example.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true. But that's your fun fact for the day. Use it whenever you use it and don't lose it. Yeah. Anyways, we hope that you have a very great and amazing week. Let us know what you think of this podcast. Let us know any ideas you have. And remember that we do have a forced labor webinar coming up October 8th. You can still register. It will be just phenomenal, really. And so that is it. Thank you guys so much for listening. And we will see you back next Monday. Bye.